Hi, everybody. Welcome. We just wanted to take a few minutes to walk you through the Unchallenged newsletter so that you have a good idea of how all the different pieces and parts works. This is Chad Ransom, and I'm Christy Roberts, in case you didn't have the introduction videos. And we'll go ahead and get you started.
Yeah, so we're going to walk you through what each of the Unchallenged sort of newsletters look like. This one that we're going to show you has a little bit around how it works.
And some background information.
Yeah, and some other background information as well.
So you want to go ahead?
Sure.
One of the things that we want to share with you is our mantra as a company. So our company is Compass Advantage, and we work as instructional facilitators, coaches, educational consultants for districts all around the United States and internationally. But our mantra is to keep it positive, keep it simple, and keep it real in everything that we do, including this Unchallenged. So we're going to talk a little bit about those three components before we jump into the pieces of the newsletter that you'll see. And the pieces that you'll be seeing will be the critical keys to unlocking learning. You'll be seeing 20-minute activities and daily doings, as well as activity extensions and academic connections. So there's a lot in these newsletters, and that's why we're making videos for each of them so that we can help make connections to you and help you pick them apart in a way that's a little bit simpler. One of our mantras, keep it simple.
So you'll see a little info here on that. As Christy was saying, here gets really into the mantra. The quick overview there, when we say keep it positive, that's so critical when we're working with kids, because we know no real learning takes place if we're not in a positive environment. And so these are all really connected, but keeping it simple, meaning easy, which means it's a positive experience for kids. So no matter what you pull out of the newsletters, always go back to, is it a positive, fun experience for kids? And if it's not, maybe we need to dial it back a little bit or do something a little different.
And with keeping it simple, as far as these newsletters are concerned, we really focused on finding materials and activities that you can do easily at home. Not a lot of things to purchase, not a lot of setup. We've done almost all of the activities together with our kids, and they really can be done very, very easily at home. I don't think we've bought a single thing, not a single thing for the activities. Granted, we have a lot of junk, so we were able to use things easily. Keeping it real means making real world connections. So you'll see a lot of that happening inside of the activities, and that's part of STEM education. It's a part of mathematics education. You'll see keeping it real popping up again and again in all different spectrums.
And we also know that the most important learning, or maybe the deepest learning, happens when it's connected to authentic, real experiences.
Exactly.
And a way in which we're going to keep it simple for you as families is keep it in your real life.
Yes.
So things you're doing every day.
Exactly.
Now, with all of that said,
that's why, I was going to add on to that, that's why one size does not fit all. So with these activities, if something doesn't feel like this is the perfect fit for you and your family, then switch it up. Make it so it does. Attach it to your context, attach it to what you do, attach it to your kids' interests. Make sure that it fits what you need it to fit.
And you're going to see a number of ideas around how you can modify activities or use different activities. But of course, in a little newsletter, we can only put so many examples. So A, don't be afraid to change it up and do something that works for you. And B, this is a good opportunity or reason to watch the little videos we have attached to them, because we're able to talk a lot more about other ideas than we can put into each of the little newsletters.
Perfect. So we're going to show you an example of the newsletter and talk through each of the pieces so that you know exactly what you're looking at. So the first thing you'll see at the top of the page is a little blurb right here that I'm circling about the daily critical key. And Chad and I, as researchers in education, have developed 10 critical keys to unlocking lifelong learning. You'll see background information for those at the bottom of this background document. But each day we'll talk a little bit about that critical key, because it kind of frames the whole activity and all the things that go with it.
And these critical keys, the reason that we're talking about them as being critical and as unlocking learning is because they're not specific to any particular grade, and they're not specific to a content area, but they underlie success in all of those things. So these are the skills that kids need to be successful in school in every content area, and also in life. So we've picked those because it's the highest leverage point you as parents could do in a really short amount of time.
And I would say most of them are not taught in school, but they should be.
Yep.
So that's why they're there for us to work with. The next piece is a 20-minute activity. So, and you could definitely stretch it longer or take it shorter if you need to, adjust where you need to. And like we said, easy on materials, fun. We've tried all of them at this point. All of them we've done either in a classroom or with our own kids. And just a way to kind of springboard and launch your kids into some fun learning. The next section is called the daily doings.
Yeah, so sorry, I was just making that a little smaller so you can see kind of page one. This is what that's going to look like. You'll have what we talked about already around the 20-minute activity and the critical key. And then at the bottom, you'll have daily doings. And you're going to see two parts there. One is how can you incorporate that type of learning into your everyday routines in life? So we'll give you some ideas there, especially if you're like, well, I don't really have 20 minutes even today. We know as parents, sometimes there are days like that where doing an extra activity, even for 20 minutes, might be too much. So this would be ways to incorporate it into your commute or when you're cooking together or lots of other ideas. And then the second part of that is a common parenting challenge that we have experienced and we hear all the time from parents. So we're going to kind of tackle one of those in each of these as well.
And I think after 5 kids, we've probably seen almost all the common parenting challenges you can come up against. The next section, we take some time to attach the critical key, the activity, the daily doings to academics. So being educators for as long as we have been, we know all of the academic standards throughout the US very, very well. And so what you'll see in this section is by grade level bands and academic standard that you could use when you're talking about these activities or the daily doings with your kids. We then also do a home connections piece. So here's the EduSpeak, or the way teachers talk about the academic standard, and here's how you can talk about it in a home environment that makes sense to you and to kids.
Some of our parents that have already participated in the past have mentioned how much they really liked these particular pieces because either they really wanted to have some academic focus for their kids besides just this deeper, other deeper learning that we're doing, and also for families that had multiple kids. So they could do the same activity but know how to ask slightly different questions or do a little bit different things with either of the ages of their kids without having to do multiple activities.
Exactly. The last piece on the newsletter is the activity extension and alternatives. And just like we said earlier, we know not every activity that we pick for the 20-minute activity is going to be great for every family. So there's some additional ideas here or ways to extend if you want to go for longer than 20 minutes with some of the activities. And that's one of my favorite parts because we get to add on and do some little twists and do some different. So you might have a game in the 20-minute activity that we show you how to play 3 different ways to kind of change it up.
Yeah, and I'll add in one other thing there when you think about extensions. If you find an activity that your kids are super excited about and they're into, keep using that type of activity or take the extensions here and keep building off of that. If you can find things that kids are interested and engaged in, do use those as much as possible.
Okay, and I'm going to totally go parent on you right now. Like, one of the things that we found doing these activities with our kids is they'll grumble at first. They're having so much fun when they do the activity. And then the next time we ask them, we hear things like, yeah, we'll do your activity, we guess. That's okay. Like they're not grumbling as much. And just recently, one of our kids stayed home from some other activity with her friends because she wanted to do our fun activity that we had planned for the family, which we felt like was a giant win. When your kids start saying like, oh, you're going to do one of those activities tonight? Like, I'm going to tell so-and-so I'm not going to come because I want to stay home and do the activity. That's pretty cool. And she's a teenager, so.
Yes. So no, and we have heard this from many other parents, right? Especially if over the last few months, kids have had even more screen time than normal or whatever. This might be a big shift for them. So it might take a little while before they start to say like, oh yeah, this is really fun. We really want to do that.
Yep. Leverage friends.
Yes.
That's my other big piece of parenting advice. Leverage friends. If you can get a friend to come be silly with you guys, one of their friends, another big win.
So we're going to talk about the critical keys in just a second. I just want to kind of summarize what you're going to get for each of the activities is this front page that we just talked about with the activity and the daily doings.
20-minute activity, daily doings.
And then the second page that has the academic connections and the extensions and alternatives.
Yep, exactly.
So that's what you'll see each time. Now for today, we also just want to show you a little bit about the actual critical keys themselves. We're not going to spend a ton of time unpacking them.
They're at the top of each of the newsletters, so they're there for you as well. But if you want background information about each of them, there are 10 plus a bonus.
Yeah. So you'll see here, a little bit of what we already talked about, that these underlie success in school and in life. And as Christy said, are not explicitly taught most of the time now in schools, because schools are focused so much on just the academic side of things, which really can be very unfortunate for kids that don't get this skill set.
And it's not that kids should just have these. They need to be taught them. And that's one of the things that you'll hear people bemoaning is, oh, my kid's not creative, or my kid's not curious, or my kid doesn't know how to solve problems. But have they been taught how to do that? Have they experienced it? Have they lived it? If the answer is no, then that's our job. We can do that as parents.
Yeah, and if you look at surveys of industries, big companies, when they talk about what are the skill sets that they want their workers or their new workers to have, it very rarely says, some sort of academic content area. It says things like being creative, being able to solve problems, being a self-starter,
being independent.
Yeah, so that's what these skills are that we're talking about.
Right. And there's 10. So get curious, solving problems, networking your learning, which means connecting, managing yourself and developing a passion for words are the first 5 that you'll get in the newsletters. And then the second 5 are
discover math, gather data, and that's not just number data. And so we'll talk all about what does that actually mean? Stick with it, create, and I'll throw in a little, create isn't just art, okay? Create is anytime you are creating anything. So it can be
it's actually the highest level of thinking, according to some taxonomies in education.
Yeah, being able to create. Tell why, so justifying your thinking. And then as Christy mentioned, we have a bonus, so we have 10 plus 1. And the reason that bonus, which is team up, is a bonus one and not a key by itself is because really you should be and could be integrating the idea of working collaboratively with other people in all of the other keys.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's it for walking you through the background information that goes with our Unchallenge. And we look forward to having you experience all of the fun activities in the 10, actually 11 newsletters that you'll get over the units. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.